Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Quantum Bridge, where we have a returning guest today. I'm going to cover a topic that I've been wondering about for a while, so we'll deep dive into that because certainly I haven't got a clue about it, even though I've heard of it. So it'd be nice to try and clear that up. So Casper, can you do the honours and introduce the guest for today, please?
Yeah, hi mate, nice to see you. We have András rejoining us, and welcome. Firstly, just welcome, András. Nice to see you.
Welcome back.
Nice to see you. Thank you very much for having me again.
No, it's a pleasure. It's lovely to see you back, and thank you for that first video, which has done very, very well for us and got a lot of engagement. So the first time it was sort of a window into your world, really, András, but this time, obviously this will take into account your own thoughts and feelings about the area that we're going to discuss. And I've got some questions that probably come close to home for me as well. But we're going to be speaking about the whole area of NFTs. I would pronounce what those letters stand for, but even that's pretty bad when I do it. So before I go on, András, can you give us a little background to them and why they're important? And if you want to take on the task of saying the full name, you be my guest.
Okay, so my name is András Kristóf. I've been in this industry for over 10 years with blockchains. We started a long time ago, and NFTs, despite their name, is basically a four-letter word in many parts of the interwebs, and based on who you ask, the definition of them is very, very different. For most of the normal people, for most of the people, NFTs are unfortunately synonymous with scams, with speculation, with hype, with unreasonable prices, with a lot of such things. For us who came here before the hype, NFTs are an incredibly useful and high potential technology. Let me try to explain what they are. NFT, non-fungible token, is basically a digital object that only exists on the internet, only exists in a digital form, yet it can be fully owned by its owner. So, in other words, this is the only sort of digital object that possesses some physical object-like qualities. And this is what makes it incredibly useful. This is the only thing that we came up with since computers existed that is in a fully digital form, but works like a physical object. In other words, let's say if I have this object here, this is my object, I own it, I hold on to it, and you cannot take it from me over the internet. If you want this dog, you need to come here, you need to hit my head with a stick and then take it from my hand. Everything else of a digital object it can be taken from me. If I have a Google account, a Google email account, that's not my Google email account. I have access to a server provided by Google, and whenever they want, they can just take it from me. If I have, let's say, a Reddit account, if I have anything else that I see I have on the internet, I don't have it. It can be taken from me, or it can disappear by switching off a server or taking the access from me, denying access. It can be done. The only thing, the only difference is with NFTs, non-fungible tokens, that if I have one, it cannot be taken like that from me. I can hold on to it. There is no server to switch off. There is no access to deny. Technically, it cannot be taken from me unless somebody comes to me and forces me to have it over. This is the most important thing that we need to understand about NFTs, this piece of technology that implemented physical object-like qualities for a purely digital object.
Yeah, and another thing that's a lovely take on it, and thank you, András, because this is a sort of demystification for us as much as anybody else. And you're absolutely right. My feeling before doing this was I could probably give my own description, and I imagine that if I asked 100 other people, we'd all give things that might approximate, but would all be slightly different. I thought that was a really good one. You mentioned it being on the internet. Is the fundamental around an NFT, because I could be wrong about this, is the blockchain rather than just the internet. So I just wondered if you might demystify that bit for us as well.
Sure. So what makes this possible is indeed the blockchain. The blockchain is the first technology, again, as humanity came up with, I think ever since Lady Ada Lovelace wrote her first lines of computer code that enabled real ownership on the internet. Blockchain, we call blockchain a trustless technology, not because it's not being trusted, but because it does not need trust. I think we talked about it, but let's cover it a little bit again this time. About the difference, the technology difference between blockchain and everything else we have over there. I think the analogy I usually use, the analogy of a law. Everything that we wrote on the internet, all servers, all operating system, all everything operates like human law. Meaning this is something that we need to take care not to break. You know, human laws can be broken. Yes, theft is illegal, but somebody can still steal something from somebody else or from somewhere else. Blockchain is the first piece of technology that works more like the laws of nature, meaning the rules laid out there doesn't need to be checked, doesn't need to be observed whether they are being followed or not. Very similarly, as you don't need to check your neighbor whether they obey the law of gravity. They will obey the law of gravity. There is nothing they can do about that. So you don't need to check whether they actually fall down from the stairs or not. This is how blockchain works. Once the rules are established within that framework, within that blockchain, there is no way to break those rules. You don't need to check whether if I send you 1 Bitcoin, you don't need to check, I don't need to sign a legal waiver that I don't have that Bitcoin anymore. I don't have it. End of story. There is nothing that can be done about it the same way as cannot be done anything about the gravity, the speed of life, the sum of the angles of a triangle. So this is the importance of blockchain, that it provided us a framework within which we can actually do things that we don't need to trust each other with, because there is no way to betray that trust.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, that's great. Because I think that the two things here that are, run in parallel is the whole thing of an NFT being something that is effectively like the mirroring of a physical item, and what allows for that mirroring is the blockchain. So without those two bits, this whole thing of ownership in the digital environment, rather than maybe I'll call it those two things working together allow this ownership, and therefore obviously what follows on from ownership of something is something slightly more human, is a way to share, but also quote unquote monetize what you have or what you've created. So I presume that's the next area you're getting into, but is there something else fundamental here that I'm missing about why NFTs are so important, or what they are?
It's basically it's super simple. It's super simple, and they are digital object with physical qualities, and they can be fully owned, they can be lost, they can be given, they can be transferred between any two people on the internet. So imagine physical objects where you remove the confines of space. Because let's say I am an artist. I set up my little stall at the flea market or the local market, and I can interact with potentially hundreds of people, but they all within my town, within my city. So I have a limit of whom I can reach. So what this technology removes is that limit. So with this technology, the same thing can be done with anybody on the internet. And I don't need a third party to make an exchange with you. I don't need a third party on the internet, because again, since we are on the blockchain, since we are on this trustless framework, a transaction can be done. You can give me money or things that have value, and I can give you this thing that I have created, and we can do that wherever we are in the world. That has the potential to fundamentally change how business is being done on the individual level. And this is also, in my subjective opinion, the reason why we have so much FUD and the misinformation about it, because it is stepping on a lot of toes.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, the whole idea of sort of quote unquote middlemen or intermediaries, I mean, there's so many businesses that are predicated upon that model, that to remove this and to allow peer-to-peer is, it's taking out, I don't know, $1 trillion industry, $1 billion. It's significant. And those people aren't necessarily just going to make the switch or say, oh, okay, that's fine. A bit like with that AI coming along, we'll just step aside. We don't need to pay our mortgages anymore. We don't need our cars anymore, all of those things. So, yeah, I can understand why there would be some friction.
Yeah.
I guess in many ways we've added layers of complication when you've got these sort of comparison sites or big corporations that everybody has to sell through them. There's middlemen and God knows how many men and layers between the creator and the sort of consumer. There's just so many layers now. It would be nice, like you say, to try and remove some of this. Maybe
Yes, but
cover the
I'm sorry, please go.
just with the. I think there was those Trump NFT images, or however we want to refer to them. I think if anybody has heard of NFT, they probably just what comes to mind is digital art, I guess. Although we can expand on that, it's bigger than that. But maybe we could use that as an example of how people were purchasing these items.
Yeah,
with the Trump NFT cards.
But it's not only art. Anything that can express like a right to do something, an ownership of something, anything like a certificate, like a membership card, like anything that that can hold value because if you hold it, you can actually prove that you hold this NFT certificate, membership card, art, or whatever. Anything that can have any value by existing can be turned into an NFT as well. So, for example, one of the big use cases that we see is communities. Right now, whatever we do, if you build a community, let's say on YouTube, let's say on Patreon, let's say or any other community platform, then it's almost immediately a hostage situation is going to switch on. The platform is keeping your community hostage from you. You need to obey by all the rules that they come up with, and if you don't, 3 strikes, whatever, your community is gone. You lose access to all those people, and all those people lose access to you. So this helpful third party turned into something different, where communities are being held hostage and creators are being forced, I'm sorry, in the most disgusting ways, to do what the platform wants, not what they actually want. If you open YouTube, you will see that all of the videos that are being suggested to you, most of them has the creator's face in a weird way of superimposed on the thumbnail. It is because the algorithm sorts those to the top to put it in front of more people. So human behavior is being changed by an algorithm, and it is forcing creators to do idiotic things in order to please the algorithms. And this is just one of the examples of what creators must do in order to stay on big platforms. And this basically changes how communities operate, and removes every value from a community except the value of reaching more and more eyeballs. A couple of decades ago, we had many different communities, and all those communities had different set of values, because obviously different communities have different set of values. Right now, because of the internet, because of the optimization, because of the algorithms, every community has only one value: reach much more eyeballs, and every other value is being thrown out. And I think we do understand what is reaching more eyeballs, what is reaching more people, the outrages, the idiotic, and so on. And this is what we can see around us in the world as well. What we want to do is we want to be able to let you to create your own community and set your values that are not being dictated by these algorithms.
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It's obviously something we're aware of, but we don't have scary faces or clickbait sort of title because we really try and stay, you know, regardless, not be swayed, like you say, by the algorithm. We're just like, well, this is what we want to be, and
Yes,
stick to that. Like you say, at a cost of not pleasing those algorithms.
yeah.
But, I mean, I read a whole thing where a guy was on X where he was talking about all the things you could do to get your post seen, and I just said, well, but I don't want to change who I am just to get seen. Yeah. So it was kind of like, yeah, I'll just stick where I'm at, you know. So I've seen it.
This is so in a very interesting way, blockchains and NFTs actually enabling this, that you can actually stay who you are, and because you can actually build a community, you can actually give value, and you can actually let your community support you without having to do all those things that these algorithms and everything else would demand of you. And if you build a community, imagine it, you issue an NFT and you call it just a membership card. And by the way, this is what Galaxis does as a platform. And then anybody who is interested being in your community, they can get one of those membership cards, and they can get loyalty points on it. Like they can get different perks on it. Depends on what value they bring to your community. And as we discussed, since this is in the blockchain, this membership card cannot be taken from you. Yes, your YouTube account might actually be taken, your other platform might actually be taken, but your community cannot be taken from you. So the first goal is what we are trying to do with this technology, to create a system where you can build and keep a community. This is number one. Once you have that, then we are also providing the different tools so you can actually reach out to that community and let that community support you. But this is frankly secondary. First of all, you should be able to have a community that cannot be taken from you, that is fully owned by you and by your own community. NFTs can do that.
Yeah, great. Because I would like us to have another conversation, if you're happy to come back at some point, András, as well, about the whole area of decentralization. Because I think this is all, everything that we've now touched on in the first chat that we had, now building on it in this. And we could go further into NFTs, because I think that they have such power, actually, to be this... To provide us with the ability not to have intermediaries and to do all of this peer-to-peer work, and to trust, to trust in the trustless environment, right?
Absolutely.
But decentralization is an important aspect of that as well. Just a quick one, just a thought, because I'm just personally interested in this. Do you see NFTs ultimately, for example, if you were buying property, and again, there's all these other factors involved in buying a property at the moment in the UK. It's quite laborious. There's land registries. Obviously, you get solicitors involved. There's all of these other costs, the costs of the realtor or the estate agent and so on. But actually, if two people just wanted to do a deal around a property, I can see it ultimately happening that all of this would be recorded and done and finalized via NFTs and blockchain. Do you Do you see that as a reality too?
I'm skeptical.
Okay.
I'm skeptical because think about that way, that there is always an issue where there is a connection is assumed within a digital object,
Yeah,
and a physical
the
object.
physical one. Yeah, yeah.
This is, in other words, let's say I say that I have this phone, and there is an NFT that proves the ownership of this phone.
Yeah.
There is nothing that can prevent me from sending that NFT to person A and giving the phone to person B.
Yeah.
So what? It works more. So digital recording it, I think there is a good way to do that. But when it can be disassociated from the physical object, there is a problem with it. For example, there are some watchmakers that says that the proof of ownership is an NFT.
Yeah.
This is not true. This cannot work as long as the watchmaker has the watch, and then they issue the NFT. And if you have this NFT, you can redeem the watch.
Yeah.
That works. But once you have redeemed the watch, you can just give that NFT to somebody else, and that somebody else will never have a watch. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah.
As long as the watchmaker has the watch and issues the NFTs, that NFT can be traded, and whoever want, they can redeem the watch from the watchmaker. But once the watch left the watchmaker, there is no accountability down the road of that. So this kind of proof of ownerships, it has to be handled very carefully.
Yeah. I understand the skepticism. I think it's a sort of perfect world scenario, or a world where so much of this is happening that the legal framework or whatever enforcement, let's say, around that is in situ, has to operate in such a way that people find confidence, because otherwise, as you rightly point out, the second iteration here of ownership of that title, so to speak, it just becomes into scam. It becomes the potential, and hence your skepticism, for scams and other issues that don't exist outside of the digital. So within the digital, it's secure, but because you're getting the real world involved in it, the non-digital and humans, suddenly it loses all the power that the blockchain has actually given you. So I understand, or it enables the things that have been done so beautifully by the blockchain to be corrupted by greed and by humans.
It's just, we just need to understand its limitations.
Yeah,
it's two different things. Also, you don't want that certificate of ownership to be lost because you lost your private key.
Yeah.
So what happens then? What happens then? There has to be backup mechanisms that says, I lost it, I need it to be reissued.
Yeah.
So again, we need to be careful with it. I love the enthusiasm that I see in many times in many projects, but I think we need to understand that the blockchain can do basically one thing: make things accountable. But other than that, it's not a silver bullet. It's not magic.
Yeah. And I think we touch on in a next conversation this whole aspect of sort of immutability as well. So, this sense of permanence in the digital, which for many people I think will be a difficult thing to really feel, because they see that technology is shifting sands and the internet is an ever-changing dynamic. And then you've got the blockchain, which is, no, this is there forever. And to get that bit across is also, you know, it's another part of this bigger picture, I think.
Yeah. In many ways, I feel that the technology is victim of its own success, so to say, and we have like an extended hype cycle, which I wish it would be over, because unfortunately, because of the many lucrative things, speculation is rampant, and that makes it very difficult to actually implement the things that would make sense.
Yeah. Well, look, I think we've given at least at the beginnings of an overview on the NFT side of things, which I think is really helpful. And in a way, it's nice that this has been a short video that allows people to dip into it and start to get a feeling for it. But if you feel like it, András, down the line, whenever you're available again, I think the NFT aspect could be expanded on, decentralization as a whole, and then maybe we could look again at how the blockchain, how the digital landscape fits with the emerging things in the physical as well, because they seem to they can be clashing, but also they can work in really nice harmony. And it's how do we look for the harmony, you know?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it's very important to understand what the technology is good for, because once we understand what the technology is good for, we can actually see all the good use cases.
Yeah.
It's just the unwarranted optimism of many projects that they think that they can do more than it is possible is sometimes that, for example, putting medical records on the blockchain or putting identities of people on the blockchain, horrible ideas. But we can definitely
let's go into that, because I think all of these things, there are maybe ways to treat a lot of this stuff that gets around a lot of this, because in theory these things are wonderful ideas, but in practice at the moment there's many reasons why they might not be quite as secure or reliable as we might hope. Great. Look, András, conscious of everybody's time, thank you very much for joining us. Do consider coming back, because those other areas, I think this is a melting pot, isn't it? It's great stuff.
Absolutely, and I would love to talk about decentralization in general. That includes, but it's not only blockchain, but includes blockchain as well. And why it is important to be able to have a complete framework for ourselves, where we can do something on our own on the internet without relying on third parties.
Yeah, brilliant, fantastic. Thank you very much, András. Have a wonderful holidays, Christmas and New Year, and we'll hopefully see you soon.
Absolutely, looking forward to it. Thank you very much.
Best to you and your family. Take care.
Bye-bye.